This time allow me to read from page 164 of a book, which I'll tell later that which book is this and who wrote that. It writes on page 164. After a few days, I received telegram of congratulation from Lord Patrick Lawrence and Sir Stafford Cripps. They were happy that Congress has accepted my resolution and congratulated me on my able presentation of the Cabinet Mission Plan. Now happened one of those unfortunate events which changed the course of history. On 10 of July, Jawaharlal held a press conference in Bombay in which he made an astonishing statement. Some press representatives asked him whether with the passing of resolution by the AICC, the Congress has accepted the plan in toto, including the composition of the interim government. Jawaharlal in reply stated that Congress would enter the Constituent Assembly completely unfettered by the agreements and free to meet all situations as they rise. Press representatives further asked if this meant that the Cabinet Mission Plan could be modified. Jawaharlal replied emphatically that the Congress has agreed only to participation in the Constituent Assembly and regarded itself free to change or modify the Cabinet Mission Plan as it thought best. The Muslim League had accepted the Cabinet Mission Plan only under duress. Naturally, Mr. Jinnah was not happy about it. In a speech to the League Council, he had clearly stated that he recommended acceptance only because nothing better could be obtained. His political adversaries started to criticize him by saying that he had failed to deliver the goods. They accused him that he had given up the idea of an independent Islamic state. They also taunted him that if the League was willing to accept the Cabinet Mission Plan, which denied the right of Muslims to form a separate state, why had Mr. Jinnah made so much fuss about an independent Islamic state? Jinnah was thus not at all happy about the outcome of the negotiations with the Cabinet Mission. Jawaharlal's statement came to him as a bombshell. He immediately issued a statement that this declaration by the Congress President demanded a review of the whole situation. He accordingly asked Liaquat Ali to call a meeting of the League Council and issued a statement to the following effect. The Muslim League Council had accepted the Cabinet Mission Plan as it was assured that the Congress also had accepted the scheme, and plan would be the basis of the future Constitution of India. Now that the Congress President has declared that Congress could change the scheme through its majority in the Constituent Assembly, this would mean that the minorities would be placed at the mercy of the majority. My view was that Jawaharlal's declaration meant that Congress had rejected the Cabinet Mission Plan, and as such, Viceroy should call upon the Muslim League, which had accepted the plan, to form the government. The Muslim League Council met at Bombay on 27th of July. Mr. Jinnah, in his opening speech, reiterated the demand for Pakistan as the only course left open to the Muslim League. After 3 days' discussion, the Council passed a resolution rejecting the Cabinet Mission Plan. It also decided to resort to direct action for the achievement of Pakistan. I was extremely perturbed by this new development. I saw that the scheme for which I had worked so hard was being destroyed through our own action. I felt that a meeting of the working committee must immediately be held to review the situation. Jawaharlal was not at first willing, but when I insisted, he agreed. The working committee accordingly met on 8th of August and reviewed the whole political situation. I pointed out that if we wanted to save the situation, we must make it clear that the statement of the Congress President at the Bombay press conference was his personal opinion and did not conform to the decision of the Congress. I explained that the view of the Congress was expressed by the resolution passed by AICC and no individual, not even the Congress President, could change it. Jawaharlal argued that he had no objection if the working committee wanted to reiterate that cabinet mission plan has been accepted by the Congress, but felt it would be embarrassing to the organization and also to him personally if the working committee passed a resolution that the statement of the Congress president did not represent the policy of the Congress. The working committee was now in a dilemma. On one side, the prestige of the Congress president was at stake. On the other, the settlement which we had so painfully achieved was in danger. To repudiate the president's statement would weaken the organization, but to give up the cabinet mission plan would ruin the country. Finally, we drafted a resolution which made no reference to the Jawaharlal statement, but reaffirmed the decision of AICC. This is followed by a long statement. We had hoped that this resolution of the working committee would save the situation. Nor there was no longer any doubt that Congress has accepted the cabinet mission in entirety. If the Muslim League accepted our resolution, it would return to the early position without any loss of prestige. Mr. Jinnah did not, however, accept the position and held that Jawaharlal's statement represented the real mind of the Congress. He argued that if Congress could change so many times, while the British were still in the country and power had not come to its hand, what assurance could the minorities have once the British left? Congress would not again change and go back to the position taken up by the Jawaharlal statement. The unequivocal acceptance of the cabinet mission plan by the Congress Working Committee led to an immediate response from the Viceroy. On 12th of August, Jawaharlal was invited by him to form the interim government at the centre in the following terms. His Excellency, the Viceroy, with the approval of His Majesty's government, has invited the President of Congress to make proposals for immediate formation of an interim government, and President of the Congress has accepted the invitation. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru will shortly visit New Delhi to discuss this proposal with His Excellency, the Viceroy. Mr. Jinnah issued a statement the same day on which he said that the latest resolution of the Congress Working Committee passed at Wardha on 10th of August does not carry us anywhere because it is only a repetition of the Congress stand taken by them from the very beginning, only put in a different phraseology. He rejected Jawaharlal's invitation to cooperate in the formation of an interim government. Later on 15th of August, Jawaharlal met Mr. Jinnah at his house. Nothing, however, came out of the discussion, and the situation rapidly deteriorated. When the League Council met at the end of July and decided to resort to direct action, it also authorized Mr. Jinnah to take any action he liked in pursuance of the program. Mr. Jinnah declared 16th August the direct action day, but he did not make it clear what the program would be. It was generally thought that there would be another meeting of the Muslim League Council to work out the details, but this did not take place. On the other hand, I noticed in Calcutta that a strange situation was developing. In the past, political parties had observed special days by organizing hartals, taking out professions and holding meetings. The League's direct action day seemed to be of a different type. In Calcutta, I found a general feeling that on 16th of August, the Muslim League would attack congressmen and loot Congress property. Further panic was created when the Bengal government decided to declare 16th August a public holiday. The Congress party in the Bengal Assembly protested against this decision, and when this proved ineffective, walked out in protest against the government policy in giving effect to a party decision through the use of government machinery. There was a general sense of anxiety in Calcutta which was heightened by the fact that the government was under the control of Muslim League and Mr. H.S. Sohrawardy was the chief minister. Then it goes on to say, 16th August was a black day in the history of India. Mob violence unprecedented in the history of India plunged the great city of Calcutta into an orgy of bloodshed, murder and terror. Hundreds of lives were lost, thousands were injured, and property worth crores of rupees was destroyed. Processions were taken out by the League, which began to loot and commit acts of arson. Soon the whole city was in grip of gundas of the both community. Sarat Chandra Bose had gone to the governor and asked him to take immediate action to bring the situation under control. He also told the governor that he and I were required to go to Delhi for a meeting of the working committee. The governor told him that he would send the military to escort us to the airport. I waited for some time, but nobody arrived. I then started on my own. The streets were deserted and the city had the appearance of death. As I was passing through the Strand Road, I found that the number of cartmen and darwans were standing with staves in his hand. They attempted to attack my car. Even when my driver shouted that this was the car of the Congress president, they paid little heed. However, I got to Dum Dum, and with great difficulty, just a few minutes before the plane was due to leave, I found there was a large contingent of military waiting in trucks. When I asked why were they not helping in restoring order, they replied that their order was to stand ready, but not to take any action. Throughout Calcutta, the military and the police were standing by, but remained inactive, while innocent men and women were being killed. 16th August 1946 was a black day not only for Calcutta but the whole of India. The turn that event had taken made it impossible to expect a peaceful solution by agreement between Congress and Muslim League. This was one of the greatest tragedies of human history, and I have to say with deepest of regrets that a large part of responsibility of this development rests with Jawaharlal. His unfortunate statement that Congress would be free to modify the cabinet mission plan reopened the whole question of political and communal settlement. Mr. Jinnah took full advantage of the mistake and withdrew from the League's early acceptance of the cabinet mission plan. Jawaharlal is one of my dearest friends, as his contributions to India's national life is second to none. I have nevertheless to say with regret that this was not the first time that he did immense harm to the national cause. He had committed an almost equal blunder in 1937 when the first elections were held under the Government of India Act 1935. In these elections, Muslim League had suffered a great setback throughout the country except in Bombay and UP. In Bengal, the governor of the province had practically made up his mind to form a League government, but the success of the Krishak Praja party upset his calculation. In the other Muslim majority provinces like Punjab, Sindh and NWFP, the League had suffered equal setbacks. In Bombay, the League had won a number of seats, but it was in the UP that the League attained its greatest success, mainly on account of the support given to the League by Jamiyat-ul-Ulama-e-Hind. The Jamiyat had supported the Muslim League under the impression that after the election, Muslim League would work in cooperation with the Congress. Chaudhry Khaliq-ur-Zaman and Nawab Ismail Khan were then the leaders of the Muslim League in UP. When I came to Lucknow to forming the government, I spoke to both of them. They assured me that they would not only cooperate with the Congress but also fully support the Congress program. They naturally expected the Muslim League would have some share in the new government. The local position was such that neither of them could enter the government alone. Either both would have to be taken or none. I had therefore held out hopes that both would be taken into government. If the ministry consisted of 7 members only, 2 would be Muslim League and rest would all be congressmen. In a cabinet of 9, the Congress majority will be still more marked. After discussion with me, a note was prepared to the effect that Muslim League party would work in cooperation with Congress and accept the Congress program. Both Ismail Khan and Chaudhry Khaliq-ur-Zaman signed this document, and I left Lucknow for Patna as my presence was necessary for forming the ministry in Bihar. After some days, I returned to Allahabad and found to my great regret that Jawaharlal had written to Chaudhry Khaliquzzaman and Nawab Ismail that only one of them could be taken into the ministry. He had said that the Muslim League party could decide who should be included, but in the light of what I had said above, neither was in a position to come in alone. They therefore expressed their regret and said they were unable to accept Jawaharlal's offer. This was a most unfortunate development. If the League's offer of cooperation had been accepted, the Muslim League party would, for all practical purposes, merge with Congress. Jawaharlal's action gave the Muslim League in the UP a new lease of life. All students of Indian politics know that it was from UP that the League was reorganized. Mr. Jinnah took full advantage of the situation and started an offensive which ultimately led to Pakistan. In an earlier page, in page 162, Mr. Azad writes, and he writes about that he made sure that instead of him, Jawaharlal Nehru would become the next Congress president. And he says later on, I acted according to my best judgment, but the way things have happened since then have made me realize that this was perhaps the greatest blunder of my political life. I have regretted no action of mine so much as the decision to withdraw from the presidentship of Congress at this critical juncture. It was a mistake which I can describe in Gandhiji's word as one of the Himalayan's dimension. My second mistake was that when I decided not to stand myself, I did not support Patel. We differed on many issues, but I am convinced that if he had succeeded me as Congress President, he would have seen that the Cabinet Mission Plan was successfully implemented. He would have never committed the mistake of Jawaharlal, which gave Mr. Jinnah the opportunity of sabotaging the plan. I can never forgive myself when I think that if I had not committed this mistake, perhaps the history of the last 10 years would have been different. Now, this passage is from the book of so-called Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad, India Wins Freedom. And there were certain sections which he had told that should only be printed after his death, and they were not printed after his death, they were printed about 30 years after that as a result of a court action. The book from which I am quoting, India Wins Freedom, is dedicated in this way: for Jawaharlal Nehru, friend and comrade. And it is printed by Orient Longman Private Limited, Asif Ali Road, New Delhi. Mr. Abdul Kalam Azad was regarded as a scholar by certain quarters, although Mr. Khushwant Singh, the Sikh journalist of a later time, but still quite a senior journalist who died some years back, I found Mr. Azad in London, where he had gone at an odd hour to talk with him, with some kind of glass in his hand. And I'll be quoting from this book a little bit more in a separate podcast, because it has certain importance in the history from the other point of view. Because Mr. Azad was basically also became the President of India, and obviously he was from the Congress, and obviously clear-cut against the creation of Pakistan. With this, thank you very much for your patience, and I hope you have enjoyed the description. Thank you.